Okay, imagine a government trying to control not just what you do, but what you think, what you read, and everything you create. I mean, that was pretty much the goal in the Soviet Union under Stalin. But here's the big question. Was it a true cultural revolution? This is a classic exam question, and seriously, nailing it is the key to a top grade. So today, we're going to break down exactly how to build a powerful, high-scoring answer. Let's get right into it.
So this is our focus. Whenever you see a prompt that says assess the validity, that's your cue. You can't just say yes or no. Nope. You need a structured argument that weighs the evidence on both sides before you come to a final, really smart judgment. And that's exactly what we're going to build step by step.
All right, first things first. Any top-level essay has to define its key term, and this is ours. This is the yardstick we're going to measure everything against. Was the change under Stalin profound, pervasive, and fundamental? We'll keep coming back to this definition to test the evidence and see if the word revolution really truly fits.
So let's start with the strongest case for the argument that yes, this was a genuine, full-blown revolution. The evidence here is pretty powerful, and it focuses on the sheer force and totality of the change that was imposed from the top down.
Now, what's so wild about this is just how final it was. I mean, before 1932, you still had some experimentation, some avant-garde art kicking around. But after this, all independent artistic groups were just dissolved, gone. You either joined a state union and produced socialist realism, or you didn't work. It was a complete and total break with the past.
And this quote just brilliantly nails the point. See, this wasn't just about a new style. It was about the state literally mandating a new reality. Art wasn't about reflecting life as it actually was anymore. Its job was to depict this idealized, imaginary future. It was pure propaganda, designed to show the perfect communist paradise, whether it existed or not.
And for those who wouldn't get with the program, well, the consequences were dire. This number, it's just chilling. It's the approximate number of writers who were arrested and killed just between 1937 and 1939. Think about that. This wasn't just censorship. This was the physical elimination of an entire generation of the country's best minds.
And these aren't just names on a list. These were absolute giants of Russian culture. Mandelstam and Babel were literary geniuses. Meyerhold had completely revolutionized the theater. And even the ones who survived, like the incredible composer Shostakovich and the filmmaker Eisenstein, they lived in constant fear. Their work was publicly attacked and heavily censored by Stalin himself. And for your essay, using specific, powerful examples like these, that's what separates a good answer from a great one. The message from the state was crystal clear. No one was safe.
So the crucial point here is that this attack was happening on multiple fronts. It wasn't just aimed at artists. You have to look at the parallel assault on the Orthodox Church. For the Church, the goal wasn't just conformity, it was total eradication. So while intellectuals were being forced to toe the party line, the Church was literally being dismantled. Its holidays were abolished, its buildings destroyed. This two-pronged attack on both belief and expression really shows you the massive, revolutionary scale of what Stalin was trying to do. Okay, so that's a really powerful case for a revolution. But to get the best marks, you have to challenge it. You have to play devil's advocate. So now we're looking at the counter-argument, that maybe the change wasn't as revolutionary, or as coherent, or even as successful as it first looks.
Now this first point is a little subtle, but it's super important. Was Stalin's crackdown really something new, or was it just an extreme version of what the Bolsheviks had already been doing? I mean, they were already censoring art and suppressing intellectuals in the 1920s. So you could argue that Stalin's policies were more of a radical escalation, an evolution, rather than a complete revolution.
And this timeline, this is fantastic evidence against a single coherent vision. Just look at the contradictions here. First, you have this radical attack on anything considered bourgeois. Then, suddenly, a complete reversal, the Great Retreat, where they bring back old experts and traditional forms. And then, it's right back to the extreme purges. This doesn't look like a planned revolution. It looks like policy just lurching from one political crisis to the next.
This adds another fascinating layer of complexity. That initial cultural revolution starting in 1928, it wasn't entirely top-down. You had these young Communist League activists, the Komsomol, who kind of took matters into their own hands. They started attacking professors and artists with this intensity that even the leadership found hard to control. It got so chaotic that Stalin himself had to step in and officially ended in 1931, which really undermines the idea of some single state-directed plan.
And here it is. This is maybe the most damning piece of evidence against a successful revolution. The great historian Sheila Fitzpatrick, in her work on everyday Stalinism, found that beneath the surface, ordinary people weren't really buying it. Skepticism was the norm. So the revolution may have controlled what got published and what was on stage, but it totally failed to conquer the hearts and minds of the people.
So we've got two strong competing arguments. How in the world do we bring them together into a sophisticated conclusion? Well, the key, the real high-level move, is to distinguish between two different spheres of culture.
This slide lays out that synthesis perfectly. Look, in the world of official culture, so what the state produced and enforced, there was absolutely a revolution. No doubt. History was rewritten, science was bent to fit ideology, socialist realism was the law. But in the world of popular culture, what people actually watched and read and thought in their daily lives, it was a totally different story. People still preferred Hollywood movies, skepticism was everywhere, and true believers were actually a minority. The revolution was profound, yes, but it wasn't pervasive.
So, how do you wrap all of this up in an essay? It's all about structuring your final judgment clearly. Let's walk through the final steps to get you those top marks.
Here is your game plan. This is the exact structure that examiners are looking for. You start with your definition. Then you present the strong evidence for a revolution. Focus on the arts and the purges. Next, you counter that by highlighting the inconsistent policy and, crucially, that lack of popular impact. Then you bring it all together with that official versus popular culture model. So what's your final judgment? It was a profound and brutal change in official culture, but it fell short of being a total pervasive revolution that reshaped the entire society.
And that leaves us with the central question, doesn't it? The paradox of totalitarian control. You can change what's on every bookshelf, rewrite the history books, and execute the artists, but can you ever truly revolutionize what people believe in their hearts? That is the question at the very core of this entire debate. Thanks for joining me on this one.